Mrs. Obama, thank you for being on the Madison Show here again on Sirius XM, The Urban View. You are quoted saying that, and I'm going to quote, Barack can't do it all by himself, just sitting alone in the Oval Office. I mean, for people listening on this day before the election, explain what you mean by that.
Well, I think everybody feels that a president is all powerful, almighty, right? That, anything that happens in this country is the result of the actions or inactions of the president, but that's simply not how our democracy works. The truth is that much of what happens in the day-to-day lives of people is decided at the local level by who's sitting in the governor's seat, who's your mayor, who are your Congress people. And a president can only do as much as he can with the support of Congress. That's how the Affordable Care Act got passed, because Congress passed the bill. That's what happens with budgets. Budgets happen because Congress, they pass budgets that the president approves. So, a president needs a team. He needs a team of leaders in Congress. He needs a team of leaders in the state houses around the country, and that's why the midterm elections are so important. And people have to understand that, they pick a president, but they also pick his team. And they pick his team because they either don't vote or vote during the midterm elections. And now is the time where the American people and folks in our communities have a chance to have their voice heard on the team that their president is going to have to work with over the next 2 years.
So
and that team is critical.
What is it that you're hoping that team can accomplish within the next 2 years? Because people may not realize what the next 2 years mean, not only for the Obama administration, but for the country.
Well, issues like minimum wage. The president has been encouraging governors around the state to step up to increase the minimum wage. And this is the way that we equalize the economic circumstances of many working-class folks who are working 40, 50 hours a week, and they can't make ends meet because the minimum wage hasn't been increased in decades. Governors who have supported this effort, who are part of the president's team, many of them have already increased the minimum wage. But in so many states around the country, this is sitting, just this bill, this initiative is just sitting there. Things like equal pay for women, again, an initiative that the president has supported, he can only do so much at the national level. It's who's in those state houses and those governors' seats that make the difference. Whether the Affordable Care Act gets implemented fully in a state is a decision that's made by the governor. So there are states all across the country with governors who've supported the Affordable Care Act, where citizens are reaping millions of dollars in benefits, and they are getting the health care they need and Medicare expansion. But there are many governors who have not supported the expansion, so the citizens in those communities aren't benefiting fully from the Affordable Care Act that was passed by Congress and supported by this president. I could go on and on and on. Common sense gun legislation, that's on the table. Immigration reform, clean energy, education. We're looking all over the country at governors who are making decisions to pull money out of education. This is, state institutions, college education, financial aid subsidies,
early
Pell
childhood
education.
education.
All of these decisions are going to be determined by that team that the American people pick to work side by side with the president. That's why the midterm elections are so important.
Let me address what some of the things that have been accomplished, and I particularly would like to focus on women. And I'll tell you why. There's this effort to somehow suggest to the women who are voting that the president really hasn't addressed the issues of women. And then I read a piece that was posted back in September where the Senate Republicans, I guess, this must be the fourth time that they've blocked a bill that would strengthen equal pay for women. But let's talk about what has been accomplished, because obviously, I think you, as First Lady, must have a lot to say. If not publicly, I can imagine what's being talked about when you and the president talk about this.
Well, just looking at the Affordable Care Act, for example, there's so much in that legislation that it advances the overall health support of women, having birth control covered, mammograms covered, primary care screenings covered. As a woman, let me tell you, having access to a gynecologist and primary care physician, raising your kids and being able to take them to a doctor for their well-child visits and not have to get your coverage through the ER. If you've got older kids, as women, we are the ones who handle these situations. Your kids are 26 years old, they can stay on your health care insurance. That's a burden that is lifted from the minds of women who have kids graduating from college, and without the ACA, they'd be out in the cold trying to figure out how they get their health care if they haven't been able to find a job. As you mentioned, equal pay for women has been an issue that this president has been pushing. But again, these issues are decided at the state level, so the president can, create a stand on these issues. He can, sort of set up the culture, the climate for it. But again, if Congress, if the governors, if they're not supportive of it, it doesn't move. And let's not mention, what women need to be most focused on are those legislators that want to turn back the hands of time when it comes to women's decisions to make decisions about their own body and their health care. This is, you're talking about a woman, these are my choices. These are my decisions, and I don't need any legislator, and most women agree, to be involved in those decisions. All these issues are on the line. Not also to mention judicial appointments that are coming up, whether it's at the appellate court level or it's the local level. Many of these appointments are going to affect issues like these for women across the board. So, again, Joe, I could go on and on and on, but a lot of people don't understand the connection between the midterm elections and how these choices and decisions truly affect these kind of issues.
And so the last message is really, you got to get out and vote.
And
take somebody with you.
Absolutely. We encourage people as they think about voting to make a plan.
Right.
You just can't let Election Day happen to you. And we all know Election Day is tomorrow. So what's your plan? Make your plan. How are you going to get to the polls? What time are you going to do it? Do you need babysitting? Are you going to need transportation? Are you going to bring somebody else in your community who needs transportation? Are you going to do it before work? Are you going to do it after work? For some, even today, folks can do early voting. So if it's Monday today, people can still, in many states where they have early voting, they can get it done, get it out of the way. But I also want to remind folks that generally voting is easy. If people have questions about where to go, information, nationally people can go to iwillvote.com. iwillvote.com to get all the information they need to make their voices heard. And once again, like you said, Joe, bring everyone along with you. I want people to think that if the margin of victory between getting the president a team that will work with him and work on behalf of our communities is a 5-point margin of victory in a given precinct or a 3-vote margin of victory, I just want people to look around their house at the 3 or 5 or 10 people that they can get to the polls on election day that might otherwise not be there if they didn't do that push.
Well, the president got my cousin Pookie up.
We always got to get Pookie off the couch.
You always got to get Pookie up.
And we all have a Pookie on the couch. But this is important, Joe.
Yeah.
You of all people, you follow these issues. You know the truth of what's going on, and you know how democracy works, or sometimes it doesn't work if people don't get involved. But I also tell people, the truth is there's no reason to be cynical about politics. This is the country that elected the first black president and reelected him by huge margins. And it happened because people voted. There wasn't anything more going on other than that. That people got up, they voted, they felt passionately about it, they understood what was at stake, and they made their voices heard. We just can't wait to do that every 4 years. In this democracy, that process has to happen every 2 years, the midterm elections as well as the presidential elections. And that's what we need to get our community in the habit of doing. Voting, the big elections are all the time. I mean, we see this. It's like who's your county sheriff matters. Who your mayor is matters. And we just have to get our people and young people, minorities and women, in the habit of knowing that elections are forever. This isn't about Barack. It's not about me. It's not about who's just on the ballot this time. This is a forever exercise. And we just can't afford to let somebody else make decisions about our lives for us. That's what we're doing. When you don't vote, you're basically saying, okay, it's on you. You fix it for me.
You don't vote, you don't count.
You don't vote, you don't count. And in this country, votes still count.
They sure do, and they're a great equalizer. Well, let me thank you so much for coming out this last minute, encouraging people, and I know they want to hear from you and understand the importance of it, and I appreciate always having you on anytime.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. You've just been a great support. And let me just tell your listeners out there that, again, I want to thank them for their prayers, their support. We have felt that encouragement throughout our time at the White House, and it means the world to us. So thank you, all your listeners, and get out and vote.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, Joe, take care.